Yo, okay, let's begin. So, second stream after the break, and I thought let's just review yesterday's stream real quick and see where we are at. So we started off with some leftover errors from before the summer, or in the beginning of the summer, fixed those, and then we could start implement the next thing. Because the last thing we did before summer was this little UI system that will help us with debugging, but is later going to be used for in-game stuff as well. Think speech bubble or status bubbles. So now when we have these very nice bubbles that gives us information about stuff happening for each entity, I want to continue the work on the monster logic. And we began yesterday by introducing action idle, and came to the conclusion that not only should action have attribute-based values, so for instance the action jump has a jump height, but the height something is able to jump is based on an attribute, probably going to be agility and energy and a few other. So you have like attributes affecting actions, but then we want actions affecting attributes. It's mainly, or what we're going to use it now is to like continuously drain an attribute. So if an entity has an energy attribute, we want pretty much every action to drain that energy attribute. But we want to implement this in a way that it works with every attribute and every action. Yes, that's what we're going to do today. Yo, what's up, Harukanan? Hope you're having a nice Tuesday so far. And Cooler SK implementing new errors. That's what it's all about, isn't it? Cody Cube, is chill hop still broken? I don't think the error lies at chill hop. I think the error lies with the automatic copyright detection system at YouTube. And honestly, it's not that much work for me. So when a stream gets taken down and I get a copyright notice, it's not that much work for me to file an appeal. Of course it sucks, it's some extra time, but it's pretty quickly and it gets sorted out pretty quickly. i.e. I don't get any marks on my YouTube account, but if a false copyright strike is detected mid-stream, they will take down the stream, which will also mean that I don't have a VOD on YouTube after. And like, it's usually like this. I usually get one of these copyright strikes and a stream taken down, and then I do a couple of streams without music, and then we try it down the road and see if it's better, right? Because I know I have the right on my side. I use Chill Hop Music with their license, everything presented accordingly. But unfortunately, errors can still happen, you know? Hope that makes sense. Yeah, it's a little bit unfortunate, but I mean, it is what it is. So, when it comes to the attributes in this game so far, I think the implementation is good. We have attribute-based values, that's various values that are affected by attributes. We have attribute definitions, and then we have attribute functions and attribute instance. And then we have some attribute generators and stuff like that. Attribute functions is, I had an idea early on to do it as like a buff debuff system, and that's pretty much what attribute functions are. And we're going to keep them around because we are probably going to have buffs and debuffs in some way. But I think we can simplify, like we could use these attribute functions. It's pretty much like, you can think of it as a separate process that runs on an attribute. So a process, an attribute function might be run every X seconds and adjust this attribute this way. So we have a process that ticks, and we could definitely use these for our actions. But I don't think that's the way I want to go. I think we can simplify them and optimize them a little bit, and to just keep them as, like, let the action itself prompt the attribute change. And so we're probably going to have like attribute adjuster, maybe. And then we define a set of attribute adjusters in an action. So maybe we have, for jump, for instance, we have an attribute adjuster for pre-jump, an attribute adjuster for jump, and an attribute adjuster for post-jump. So when we do the pre-jump, we run the attribute adjust for pre-jump, which will probably be energy drain of some sort. And doing it this way means that we can, or the way I want to do it is, I don't want the actions to know about attribute handler or the attributes themselves. I just want the action to send a message to the agent. Hey, we want to change an attribute with this attribute adjuster, and then the agent will sort it out with all the subcomponents. And the agent is pretty much going to be the brain and handle all the communication between these sub modules. That's where we're at, and that's like the idea we're going to dive into this with. Maybe it will hold, maybe we'll need to adjust it a tiny bit. That sounds very nice, CodeCube. Is the GI system, that's the one you've been posting in the Discord, right? You love the bubbles, but it needs to be a bit more space between them. Maybe. I think we tried it during development, and I honestly think I like it more when they are this close to each other. We can try this, I think. Like, you don't get the same, it doesn't really feel like they are affecting each other as much when it looks like this, you know? It's not bad. I just don't think it's as good. But okay. It's physics based here, so if we want more it's pretty much the collider, the 2D collider, that is going to decide how close they are, and that was the value I changed as well. All right. But okay, let's see. Let's start by introducing an attribute adjuster or attribute alterer. Although I wonder. I rewrite GI a lot. Yeah, it feels like all graphical or specifically graphical stuff is very hard to get right. It's always you have to outweigh some artifacts if they are small enough to keep, you know. It also depends on like how much of a perfectionist you are, I guess. Yo, what's up, Calvino? Thank you, appreciate it. Hope you had a wonderful summer. So my next question here, if we have attribute alterers, let's say that we have for jump and we have an attribute alterer, a full jump should take, let's say, 5 energy. But the full jump is going to be a process, right? But maybe not. We can start with having attribute alterers, and then we just send the full attribute alterer, I guess. And I also wonder, I've started thinking about how the agent is going to parse all of these messages. I'm probably going to rely on polymorphism again. But we're going to have a lot of messages going in and out. We're going to have needs going in and actions going out and so on. We'll just wing it a bit, I guess. So let's do... Don't we have a namespace here yet? Okay, that's bad. That definitely sounds like a cozy summer, Calvino. It has been pretty nice weather most of the summer as well, hasn't it? Oops. Attribute alter, and probably the way we're going to go about this is serialize field private, no attribute definition, but I want it without this. So this is the attribute. Thank you. Additive, multiplicative. I wonder if I want to do addition, multiplication, subtraction. We can start with those. CodeCube, very rainy in my area. Isn't it always? It feels like it's always is. At least every time you drop by my streams. And then we're gonna have... We're just gonna call it value. I'm gonna serialize, and then we want attribute alter type. Yes. And what's up, Scafer? What's up, Kevin? Codecube, no, it's usually very dry. I only talk about it when it's rainy. Oh, so it's like survivor bias for me then, I guess. Survivor bias adjacent. Schaefer, you are correct. Modifier, modifier, modifier. Alterer, modifier. Fuck, modifier. I like modifier more. Alter, of course, more powerful. But like modifier feels like modifier to me is something you put on the attribute and it stays pretty much. So a modifier is it's multiplication pretty much, but forever. I don't think we actually want multiplication here. Alter, what a unique name. What the hell is this? Is it actually such a unique name? Attribute, what do we have then? I'm getting too much heat to keep this. So we're gonna modifier changer operation operation to me feels more like Codecube, I want to work on this for a long time. Operation feels more like you send in two attributes, maybe, and do an operation between them. But maybe modifier is probably the one I like the best so far. Yeah. Attribute definition, value, alterer, type. And then we are probably gonna have... Do I need a constructor here? Probably we do, actually. Yes. What is it? Let's keep that. Return. And then we have a switch. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then I guess we send... Yeah, we send this one up to our agent, and the agent passes it down to the attribute handler, and bada bing, bada boom, we're done. I think. Okay, so the idea then, or the next step rather, attribute-based value data editor. No. Skafer, how do you like the new pill-themed VS Code? What exactly do you refer to when you say pill-themed? Is it the AI integration, or is it the new syntax color? Fuck, it feels like... What is the experimental design here? It feels like every time I open VS Code, there's something new. New pill layout in VS Code sucks. Yeah, okay, we're missing the back bar here. We have some rounded corners around these windows. Is that what we're talking about? I don't know, how does this look? This looks pretty much the same. Honestly, I like the removal of this bar down here which had some information I didn't care that much about. Honestly, I didn't even notice it until you said something. It doesn't look too bad, does it? Like using borders and margins where it shouldn't be. Okay, you lose some screen space. True. Maybe it's time soon to ditch it. Honestly, the design itself doesn't bother me that much right now, but it's the never-ending changes every fucking update. And I'm still following an issue on GitHub because I have an issue where I don't get Git gutter details. So usually if we change a file, we have some gutter colors here and we can see the changes. No matter what I do, reinstalled VS Code, everything, I don't get them. And there's currently an open issue on the official VS Code GitHub that should fix this, but yeah. Skafer have disabled updates after they decided to add Copilot as the co-author to every commit, even if you don't use any LLM. Yeah. Hadouken, I'm so tired of VS Code's damn updates all the time. It never does anything except AI crap. Yeah, I agree. It feels like when I'm finally getting settled and comfortable, something weird changes. Yeah, maybe it's time to jump ship soon. We'll see, we'll see. Attribute-based value data editor node. Why can't I write? Based. Okay, so we use... Okay, I get it. Because what I want to do now is I want to create something similar to this, but for our attribute alters then. Harukanen, yeah, that's true. I don't know. Notepad, maybe. Fuck, that's AI these days as well, right? Kevin, by the way, I use Arc. Arc is the computer world, or Arc users is the computer world equivalent to vegans, right? In the internet joke that they have to mention it. Yeah, honestly, sometimes like the what is it called? AI auto finisher is pretty useful, I think, and I like to and I don't have that much against it, like the integrated AI window, asking it question and maybe let it write one or two simple functions, you know? So the AI integration, part of it, maybe I could do without, part of it I actually like. But okay, you know what? If we're gonna do this a lot, if are we all modifier? Is that the best word for this instead of alterer? Modifier still feels like, yeah, maybe. Alterer is not the best word for sure. Okay, let's do modifier then. Attribute modifier. Let's change the name as well, and then we're gonna add a attribute modifier editor node and an attribute modifier runtime node. Like the only experience I have with Arc is I had a couple of friends that got MacBook Pros when we studied, and the first thing they did was to install Arc on it. And then followed like maybe even weeks of problems, you know, couldn't get that sound to work, or the computer wouldn't be put to sleep when you folded it down and stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe works better these days. Feels like you have to do a lot of setup to make it work in a good way, you know? Attribute modifier. I can't really let go of the fact that Ultra is such a bad name. I think it's a pretty good name. Still. Kodakube tried to put it on an old Intel iMac, but it used a T2 chip and it was awful to get working. Yeah, I promised myself that my next computer is not gonna... I'm probably gonna have Windows on it, like dual boot for the games, but the main operating system is gonna be some flavor of Linux. I just don't know which one I want to go with yet. Not Graph Toolkit. Do I still have it? Yeah, creature generation, node system, editor, runtime. Nodes. Here we have alters. I think alters is a good word, but maybe I should reconsider. Let's see, instantiators. Where do we have converter setters? Ah, fuck. Yeah, I need to restructure some of this stuff. Attributes. Add attribute handler, attribute based value, attribute generator editor node. Okay, beautiful. You know what? We're going to do add attribute based value data editor node. We're going to duplicate that one. And we're going to change it to attribute modifier. And then we have a runtime node. And then we open this one up, and we open this one up. T2 ship. I can't say that I have no idea what the T2 ship is. Was it Apple made as well, or it was Intel, or was it Apple? These days they are pretty good at chips, right? M1, M2, M3, and so on. Attribute modifier. Editor node. Modify runtime node. Okay. Undefine options. What do we have? Add option, attribute definition. Yes. Undefined ports. Main internal name. Let's see. Yeah, when we generate these as well, do I want to allow for... Yeah, I think we want to have min-max as well. So if we think about it, like when we generate attribute modifiers for our actions, one blob might have... Yeah, jumping for one blob might cost more. So jumping for a blob might cost more than jumping for another blob. I think that's good. The more different values they have, the more unique they become, but to a point, I guess. Hadouken was Apple's encryption thing for everything. All data lanes went through that thing. If it broke, you were shit out of luck getting any data out of the damn computer. Oh, single point of error then. Was it, like, how was the speed of it? I can, like... Passing everything through the encryption. I'm thinking here, yeah. Yep. Okay, so we're gonna do it like this. We're gonna have min max. And then we have an add and output port. And also I want to add a second option here, right? We want to add context, add option, attributes, dot attribute modifier type. Oh, I want to get a quick string out of these. Not really. Initiate, finish it. There we go. Latency was pretty good. I mean, it was assigned to handle it, so it was fine. Oh, nice. That's good. What's up, Phantom? Thank you for the follow as well. Appreciate it. If you use auto-completion, should you mark your game as containing AI-generated content, since autocomplete is AI-driven nowadays? AI-generated content is a spectrum. Right. Steam don't care if your code is AI-generated. I wonder, like, I haven't really looked into Steam, like the AI-generated disclaimer they have. Like, I wonder how descriptive is it? Could you like hover it and see exactly what is AI generated? Fuck, nobody cares about code these days. CodeCube, for a person using the Mac for, well, a Mac, it was unnoticeable. That's pretty good. Phantom, yeah, I was triggered when I saw the criterion itch.io for AI content. Yeah, marking it as AI generated for autocomplete feels a little bit too anal, you know? Is that how you use that word in English, by the way? We'll see. A little bit too harsh, you know? But they should just go the other way. Like, if the code was 100% written by humans, it should have like a human label, because I can bet you that a big majority, if not like 95% of all coding games these days is in one way or another touched by AI. Thank you, Calvino. I just had to think about it for a sec. Attribute modifier editor node. Now we have some nice let's use Oh, yeah. Attribute modifier dot if Griefus will always find a way to squeeze through. Yes. Calvino, I'm just gonna drop this. I don't think people care if the game is made by AI, if it actually looks good, plays good, and is overall a great game. I agree. Honestly, like I think it all comes down to slop. It's way easier today to create slop. Slop is always the problem, right? Yeah, of course. Then you also have the environmental aspect and the people getting laid off, I guess. Code to be fair, I'd rather play human slop though. I don't have the time to play slop. Okay, let's see. Undefined options, undefined ports. Everything looks kind of good. I want to fix the last bit here. Cashless. Attribute definition range. And then we also want to get... attribute modifier type. Yes. And then this line we can delete and replace with return new attribute based value. No. New attribute based value. Okay, attribute. Yeah, we have an instance of it. Yeah, I think the way we want to do it here is attribute modify runtime node. We want to send in everything as it is, so we're gonna have attribute attribute definition attribute modifier type, and then we're gonna have range. Let's see. I don't think we want to cache this like ever. CodeCube sleep is extremely important to most people, I guess. If it's time, it's time. Thank you for dropping by, I appreciate it. Attribute definition. Like, the thing here is we're gonna have an attribute modifier, and cache. If we cache it, oh, no. We want to cache it. Cache it is per instance when we generate. Yes. Attribute definition. Attribute modifier type range. And then we want to save. Let's see. I think we want to save an attribute modifier. Oops. Like, this is compatible with connection. False can output. Attribute modifier. Think that is about it. So yeah, we're gonna have to add nodes for action idle as well. So let's do that real quick. Add action idle run. Let's start with the editor node. Generation editor node. And how did I solve it here? Let's have some consistency. Rotation time range. Okay. So we're gonna name it undefined ports. Animate entity in, animate entity out. That's good. But I also want a add input port attribute modifier. Yeah, fuck, we don't need that prefix here. Let's just do something like that. And this we want to get rid of eventually as well, but let's see. Maybe it is good to have it here, since this is only on the editor side of things. We'll see. Add output port. Yeah, we want another name there. Okay, input count 1, 2, output count 1. We just create it like this. It's compatible with connection. Input index 0. If Okay. I do wonder about this extra step we added, or I added. I take full responsibility. In the beginning of this summer, there has to be cause for it, or a reason for it, but is it a good reason? I think the idea is that let's do action move rigid body. In the setup, we have attribute-based values, while in the actual component we have instances. Because when we do initialize process, interrupt, instantiate attribute dependencies, that's when we actually take these and make instances of them. What are we working on at the moment? We're working on monster logic and the interplay of attributes, pretty much. So just to summarize it real quick, entities like the monsters will have an agent brain. They will have a set of attributes, and they will have a set of actions they can do. Attributes will affect how the action is done, and the action being executed will affect the attributes. So for instance, we have attribute that is agility, which might affect how high something jumps, i.e. the attribute affecting the action. And then we have the action of making a jump will cost energy, i.e. the action affecting the attribute energy. And then we're currently implementing how all of this will work together, right? Which will eventually help us with the goal-oriented agent. And we're starting easy, so we're currently implementing the action of idling. So pretty much when the creature or entity has nothing to do, it will idle. But like we know from real life, idling still takes energy. It costs energy to be alive. So we want this action of idling to decrease the energy in time. So right now we're just doing the work of adding the action idle and make it possible to generate that on an entity. And this attribute modifier is going to be used in that action to, when it's processing, it's going to tell the agent that we're currently processing idle, it costs this much, and the agent will tell the attribute handler that this attribute should decrease. Maybe not that short of a summary, but I think a pretty good one. An action idle is something new here. So that means that we need to implement it. We need to add the proper nodes for it to be able to be generated. And yeah, that's about it. Like, I'm still wondering about this, but okay, let's take a little bit of a simpler route when it comes to adding the this one. So in this node, we get the animate entity we should add the action for. We get the energy drain modifier. And then we do add action focus setup. Create action is pretty nice though. Action idle. Public idle. And then I have a damn setup here already. But I'm thinking about skipping it. Yeah, I think we're gonna skip it. Private. Energy drain modifier. And then we just send this one in here. Oh, did I screw up the wrong one? Maybe I did. Here we have empty, right? Yeah, great. Oh, that's good. We might want to have... Now to the question, energy drain modifier. We might need... might need some more information here. So, if we think about modifiers, we have which attribute it modifies. We have how it modifies it. We have with how much it modifies it. But it feels like we're missing one last dimension of it. And that is time. With only these three, it feels like something that is... You do it once, and then you forget about it. So I guess this modifier type, or these three values for a modifier would work good with a attribute modifier for a jump, because then you just trigger the attribute modifier at the beginning of the jump, and so all the energy is drained instantly at the jump. But honestly, that would work. But then comes the whole question of, like, how much the energy the entity actually has affects how high it jumps or how quick it moves. So I guess even in that case, we would like it to be more of a process, i.e. we could make the value we define in modifier be per second, right? But that's also very weird, because we're gonna have actions that only takes 0.1 second. So when we define it in the graph, it's going to be hard. Then we need to take that into account. How long is the action? It would be much easier to just have to be able to define it in the modifier as well. Yo, what's up, average gamer? It's honestly, the motivation is down and up, you know. You can't rely on that shit. Gotta have some sort of discipline. And also the fact that I really want to play this game as well. Yo, what's up, Yash? It's been long. Hope you had a wonderful summer, man. I've been on... what is it now? Almost a 1 month break. 1.5. So you didn't miss much. Hope everything is going good with the game as well. So everything here tells me that we need to introduce one more thing to the attribute modifier, and that is the time parameter. If we do that, or we can do it in 2 different ways here. I wonder which one will be best. We could do the enum type of thing, you know, either it's instantaneous, i.e. it's one and done, or it's 1 second based. We could probably introduce a couple more enums that make sense down the road. Or we just do it with a plain old float value. 0 is instantaneous. Everything else is what it is. I think that's the one I like the best. Yo, what's up, Cardok? Appreciate the stream streak as well. Give me fuel, give me 5. I can't say I know which song it is. But I do appreciate a gimme 5 more than fire. So, attribute modifier, value, serialize field, private float, duration. Duration is not the correct term here. It's not how long this modifier is active. That is decided by the action itself. What's up, Sweda? Indeed I am, indeed I am. Hope you had a wonderful summer. What's up, Antonino? Truman Show quote. Yeah, it was way back, wasn't it? Thank you, sweet. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. So duration is definitely the wrong word here. And as you know, I might not be the best namer there is. I try to be, but I'm pretty shit at it. So I'm wondering if delta time makes sense. We have an attribute modifier, we have a value, and then we have a delta time. I think that's one I'm gonna go with here. Delta time I don't want to be randomized, which means that our runtime node and editor node is going to be much easier to do, because we're just going to add it as a or I wonder if we want to add it as an input anyway. Attribute modify. No, it's not here we want to add it. We want to add it in attribute modifier editor node. Okay. Yes, beautiful. And then we have here context, add option float. Okay. So when we alter it, we want to calculate. I guess the way to do it is float multiplier delta time. If it's no. If it's bigger than 0, then we do value, we do time, delta time multiplied by value. You know what? You know what? it's greater than 0, we do delta time. If not, we do this, and then we do a multiplier down here instead of introducing a second variable. So it was correct. Does this make sense? If it's greater than 0, if it's greater than 0, then we do, let's see here. We need to calculate something. We need to calculate something with time, delta time divided by delta time. Does that make sense? I think it does. The interval in seconds from the last frame to current one. We're gonna have delta time in seconds as well. So let's say if it's 1 second since the last frame, which I hope never will happen, and then we have 1, which is so just a value. Yeah, I think this is what I want to do. Okay, great. Because what I want to do then attribute alter type value delta time. Okay. So I guess then this, okay, now we're moving into the a bit more complicated stuff, I guess. Now we're going to introduce the communication with the agent from action to agent. So some sort of, I guess it's not more complicated than just introducing an interface. Initially, listener. Okay, we can do it in a few different ways here, I guess. Because of previous implementations and how other stuff is handled here, we actually have a reference to host, which currently is the animate entity. Like in a best case scenario, I would want to get rid of this. But yeah, we definitely want to get rid of this eventually. So I'm starting to think that. Let's see. I'm starting to think that I want to similar way as this. So we have a parser in agent, and then we have an interface. Don't we have something similar already? But if we do it this way, at some point, like the action itself needs to subscribe, or maybe not. Let's see. iAgent system, yes. iAgent system, no. iAgent module. The agent message we have is currently very basic. That's probably going to be the base of it. Duration clear text. Yeah, that's going to be the base class. Let's see, I just have to make it make sense in my head before I start implementing it. On agent message, action handler is an iAgent system, maybe, which needs to implement on agent message. And then we have invoke. This is fucking hell. This is exactly what I want to do, even for the actions themselves, I think. And we're gonna send in it's gonna be an agent message of a new type, because the previous agent message is just information, and that's gonna be like the base class of the messages. But with this agent message, we actually want to alter stuff, right? So, agent instance on notification. Handle agent message. Fuck. We already have implemented just in the beginning of summer before I took a hiatus. And this is pretty good, I think. Handle agent message, of course, is gonna be way more complicated. With some switch cases. Maybe. Yeah, with some switch cases. And then in start, possibly move if action handler is made into mono behavior, animate entity, get component, event systems, add animate interaction handler. And then we do game object, get components, iAgent system. Yeah, that's a problem here. Or I don't know if it is. So action handler. We could let action handler do some parsing on its own, i.e. like the action handler is the agent system currently, but then it's gonna have to like fetch information and messages from these separate actions, which it currently does in a way, just simple information currently. But that feels fucking action handler, man. I wonder if this is redundant in a way. Like if we take a look at instantiate, yeah, we can skip those. Update active actions. I guess it's nice to keep track of which one are active or not. Can perform, I guess. Like I'm just wondering if we have enough logic in here to warrant a own class, or if we should just litter entity with it, basically. Handle active actions, yeah, it just keeps track of a list. And then of course we have spawning some messaging, which we do, yeah, on process change. If we let actions do it themselves instead, we could probably get rid of so many. We wouldn't need on process change on yada yada yada. Or maybe like I'm wondering if I want to simplify is not the correct word, but if I want to take all of these and jam them into the same signaling system, or if I basically want to have two signaling system running in parallel. Oops, sorry about that. I think I like to wing things. Wing it, go on feeling. So I think we're gonna do a secondary stream here of signals. And then later on we can see if we can possibly merge them and simplify it. Let me just write this down in my document so I don't forget. Merge action signals with agent signals. So if we take a look at an action, currently we have all of this. And I'm wondering if I'm just going to pack this into one type of signal instead and then parse it. Because currently, yeah, this information is sent to the action handler to sort them and stuff like that. It's also sent to the agent message just to get our nice information bubbles of what have happened. And it's also used for communication between actions. Because some actions depend on other actions before they can be triggered. Because what I want now is action idle in process here. I would like to have we would probably want it I would like to have spawn agent message I think this would be easy and pretty straightforward. So spawn agent message action idle is processing. Spawn agent message action idle modifies attribute and modifies attributes by energy drain modifier. So then we have spawn agent message in the base class, I would suppose. Which would work much like this one. And then we call on agent message invoke message, which prompts our agent instance to get handle message. And then we have the message here, and then we parse it, and this agent will know what the fuck to do. Currently, it only has access to the entity has access to everything else, I guess. Okay, I'm just gonna take a sip of coffee and think about this. One sec. Okay, that was a big sip. Let's see. I think this makes sense. I think this makes so much sense that it's eventually gonna lead to a little bit, a small rewrite of entity. Just a simplification. Yes. So, next question then. How specific do I want the... We can start in agent... agent notification, which I want to split up. Agent notification. Yes. I think we're gonna have agent message is gonna be way more complicated. We're probably gonna have an agent message, and then we're gonna have a agent message clear text. And I think we're gonna skip duration. Instead, we're just gonna base duration on... So agent message right now and agent notification are pretty much only used to tell our UI system to spawn a information bubble. Yes, okay, I know. So we're gonna have private void parse agent message message, and then we're gonna have on notification, and we can get to that later on. So basically we're gonna have parse agent message, and then we're gonna have parse agent message during when we're in editor is gonna signal is gonna trigger like on notification, but we're gonna call it something else, probably on parsing message, and then our notification pool will listen to that. So as soon as we start parsing an agent message, we will also display that agent message in clear text in the game world to me. Make it a little bit easier to debug. But agent message, okay. Let's start by introducing a separate file for it, because this one is going to be pretty big, I suppose. Create. You can't do... can you do switch cases on types in C#? I don't think you can. I don't know if anything has changed. I'm gonna assume you can, so we're gonna pair this one up with an enum. So every agent message is gonna be of a type, and the enum pretty much describes what it is. Oh, okay. Fuck me. Let's see if it can parse this. Love this. C# released in 2007. Okay. Okay, that's beautiful. Let's just continue with the assumption that this is how it is. Introducing a enum to handle it isn't that big of a change if we need to. I would love to not do it. So I'm happy about this. So let's do a folder, agent messages, and then we do empty agent message. Game agent. You know what? I think we're gonna do it like... Yes. Namespace game.agent. And then we're just gonna call this one message. And this is gonna be the base class. So instead of having a public type, we're just gonna rely on subclassing this shit. Is there anything Is there anything that every agent message should have? I can think of priority. Priority. But for now, I think this is what we're gonna leave it with. And I think I'm gonna do this as well. And then if we think about the message we want to send, what we need to properly execute it, and some other information we might want. The fact is, for like an attribute modifier message, we just need the attribute modifier, right? But we probably want some more information here. I'm wondering if I want to make it as specific as an attribute modifier message, or if we could do it as a action executed message, and then we have the action, what state the action is in, and then we can have an optional action modifier or a list of action modifiers, which is going to put more strain on the parser itself, but we're also going to be able to do much more with it. Much more with it. And if we name it action, we could just name it action message. So game agent dot message action, maybe. And then yeah, maybe. Let's see how it looks. Wonder if I want to go messages action. I guess I would like this actually, but then we screwed up here. Game agent messages. So if we have it like this, we could do like public action. Then we're fucked. Public game dot actions action. But yeah, and then we could like fetch all the information out of that one. But at least in the beginning like this, I want to scale it back a bit. So I wonder if we want to do game actions dot action. Action dot I action I game actions type type and then I want public game actions dot state. And I'm also wondering if we want to have I guess we can have previous state current state and then I'm wondering here if this is where we want to have game dot attribute modifiers. So then I wonder if we create it, if we can do, I wonder if this works in a constructor. Params. Game.actions.date previous date. 1 sec, just gonna run and grab a new cup of coffee. Okay, back, sorry. In this, yeah, I mean, I don't know how general we can be in this kind of messaging system. For some reason, it's this one that makes me question it. Maybe it's okay. Action message, and then we jump to agent instance, and we do handle parse agent message. And now let's see if this works. Switch. Yeah, message. But here we do, I don't know, here we do, and then agent message action. One agent message, one method they all should implement is string. So let's just see what's going on here. Action message type. Yeah, that's not at all how I want to do it, but like when get message as string, we want to be a bit more vague here with the, I think, attribute modifiers, because I'm thinking we want to output this, we want to output this, we want to output this as our clear string, but the modifiers we're going to see as soon as these has been passed to the action handler. We're going to see the action handler sending messages as well. Pretty much. It's probably gonna send like, yeah, attribute change message, I don't know, attribute message. But I do want to include some information about the attribute modifiers here. So I'm thinking about doing it like this. I remember some like string builder or something like that. I don't, yeah, maybe. I honestly find this extremely tedious to parse in code, this type of string building. Not much different here. Append line, yeah, it's something like string builder. But append line, we're probably gonna go with append. I want it short and concise, one-line message that fits our bubbles pretty good. Then of course I don't want it to be too long of a line, and that's gonna become crazy. But for this one it would be something like fuck, maybe this isn't too bad. So I think this one is redundant, so type colon previous state current state maybe. Action focus, available processing 1 attribute modifiers. Maybe, we'll see how it looks. And once again, like, we are going to use this for prod in game, but not exactly like this. So it's not going to get message as string, it's going to be like get message as icon or something like that, and that's what we're going to put out. And in that case, we're not going to let it know anything about the attribute modifiers. Maybe not for actions though. We're going to rely on like animations and stuff like that to get the player to understand that the entities doing some sort of action. But for low attributes or unhappiness or whatnot. But I think this is pretty good beginning. So, agent instance. Public Unity event. Agent message. On parsing agent message. Agent message. Agent message, I'm gonna get messages string. Then here I think I want to have public class message. No, not notification maybe, but no. Displayable message. And we're gonna have displayable message. Convert get as playable message. Turn new displayable message. Let me start with this. So the duration, I think I want to calculate it based on string length or something like that, number of characters for now. Then we're also going to add priority. The higher the priority, the longer we display it. Sort of. Duration is equal to let's see, 0.1 second per character is way too long. 0.01 seconds per character. Then it's gonna need one. That's also 0.05. Something like that. And then we do this. So agent instance, parse agent message. Before we parse it, we do. So on parsing agent message here, we want to send displayable message. Just so we get it displayed. On notification, agent notification pool. Private message as string. Yeah, that might be a problem. We need to do one more thing here. Displayable message, get message as string. Yeah, that is true. If we want to display it in the fashion we have so far, we need agent. You know what? We're gonna have message get displayable message. Get displayable message. 3 position. World space. Get as displayable message at position. What did we do previously? We did get render bounds. Maybe we could send a position not tied this much to the message, but I guess this is okay. Agent notification bubble display, displayable message, bounce position, transform position. Here we just do message, position world space, start coroutine, notification, duration. We don't need... So we just do this. It was up IPO. What the heck, when I opened your stream the video didn't load, but I could hear. Fuck, I hope it wasn't on my end. Let me take a quick look at these stats. I think it looks good on my end. Yes, and the only thing we need to change here is, I guess, displayable message. Instantiate on notification, add listener on. We want display here, but we want to change this one to on parsing agent message, add listener display. So this one pretty much just lays there listening to all the agents. If any of the agents are parsing a message, this one grabs our agent notification bubble and displays the message. I think that's the only changes we need to do here. So back to agent instance. We also have this, so that should be okay. Okay. So I think, okay, we still have this one though. Okay, we're gonna implement this one, and when we have this one implemented, we have everything done on the receiver end of things. Then we're just gonna need to worry about the sender. So currently, when it comes to an action message, the only thing this one is gonna do is, I think the only thing this one is gonna do right now is for each no. What it's gonna do is action message dot attribute modifiers. No. Yeah, we need to fix this one. So for each attribute modifier in, I'm just gonna call it attribute. modifier. We just need to send maybe. Okay, we have two paths here. I'm gonna take the simpler one for now. We don't want to spawn any more messages here right now, but maybe that's what we will do in the future, or repackage this message and send it downwards. But for now, I'm just gonna do entity attribute. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Let's see, entity. Is it our dynamic entity that has attribute handler? Yeah, so maybe we should make this a bit more specific. Agent instance. I think we can make it. Yo, what's up, Diligence Humility? Hope you had a wonderful summer. So when I think about it, we have static entities, that's just entity. We have dynamic entities, that's like fruit and stuff like that. They can move around in the in-game world, but they don't have agency. So should we really care about, should an agent instance be controlling an entity that don't has agency? My answer is no. I don't know why I put entity here though. So we're gonna change this to animate entity. I wonder how much I fucked up by doing that. Probably not much. Honestly. Okay. So now we can do dot attribute handler, apply attribute modifiers. Unfortunately, we don't have this one just yet. We have has attribute function, add attribute function, so hots and dots. But I would really like to have bool apply attribute modifier. Yeah, we're gonna have to fix namespaces for this one, because in attribute we should not need to do this, but that's okay. Attribute modifier, attribute instance get attribute modifier. Let's just do it like this. Escaper, do you think thermal vision scope in games is just a shader with radial gradient over a second render target to render through walls? Yo! Thermal vision. You could probably go about it multiple different ways. The way you are describing sounds like a good one to me, if I get it correctly, and something I would like to implement. So yeah, so if we, I just need to think about it. Like, this is fun. So let's see here. Thermal vision scope. You should see it sees, I'm missing the better words here, but it sees how hot something is. Right. If you want it to work through stuff, so you want to see things that aren't visible in the original game view, then yes, you're probably going to have to add some. Like inject some sort of extra render. And since I've done it a lot, I would definitely go with rendering. If you add an additional render pass, you could probably do it pretty physically accurate as well, I think. Yeah, doing it all in SDF would probably be more costly. Instead of just injecting a custom render pass that renders... I guess you want to render the full scene again, but in a simplified way. Because, I mean, if you render the person, the heat signature of the person behind a wall, you then want to render the wall as well, because that one should affect how much heat is going through or not. Am I... Is my knowledge in thermal vision lacking? Probably. I would like, just for the fun of it, I would definitely go with injecting an additional render pass. Like, a render pass can be extremely cheap, but the more, in this case, if you would want to aim for more physically correct, you would need to render more stuff, right? Or you, yeah. One is the main, one is for the walls, and one is for the objects. I would just go one for main and one for the thermal vision, and do some sorting magic there. So when you do the thermal vision render, it would pretty much be as if every object is transparent. So you only sort them based on distance from camera, and then you render them to the texture, starting with the one furthest from the camera first. Depending on how many objects you have, it might get a little bit fucked performance-wise, but you could also, you make this render pass render to a smaller texture because you want to scale it up later on either way, because you want to get this blur on it, right? Scaffold, but maybe you can use depth buffer for determining the wall thickness, so then you render your targets, objects, enemies over the depth buffer of walls and debris. In the depth buffer, you have information of how far away is, for this pixel, how far away from the camera is the object we're rendering here, not taking transparent objects into account. Yeah, so that's true. So you could choose to only render the dynamic objects which you want displayable in the thermal view, and compare there depth to what is rendered in the depth buffer. And if you don't want that much physics correctness, you might just multiply the thermal color with 0.5 if it's not in front of the camera, you know? Like if you do a secondary pass, I don't know how Godot handles it, but in Unity you have a lot of control of what renders and what don't render. So for instance, if I would do this in my game, I would work a lot with these things. So when we decide what is going to be rendered in this render pass, we can sort things out, you know, based on different criteria. Fuck, now I'm really itching to try this out, to do a semi-physically accurate thermal view. I think it would be a very fun. But if we're going for optimization, I would just render all the dynamic objects to a texture, a smaller texture, and you render them with a replacement shader, if that's possible. And that replacement shader, based on some data, renders how hot they are, quote unquote hot. But when you render it to this secondary texture, you also check if they are being rendered in a normal view. If they are, they're gonna have 100% of their thermal value. If they aren't, they are gonna have a decreased amount of the thermal value rendered to the texture. And then, since this is a minimized texture, we're also gonna scale it up before we apply it to the game view. I hope this makes a little bit sense, but like from your first message, Schaefer, it feels like you have a pretty good approach that I don't know the Godot language, but it doesn't sound wrong to me. Like, the thing is, when you do a secondary render pass, you render an object again, but you have the option to replace with what shader they are rendered with. So for instance, my example here is my outline shader. Here I don't choose a different shader, I just choose a different pass of the shader. But like, the object is rendered again, but you have the option to change how it is rendered. And that's where you can add a simple thermal shader that, I don't know, maybe takes data from the vertices. So in my case, we go through every relevant object sorted out by this, and we re-render them with their shader, but a different pass of their shader. And we render all of this to a texture. I would guess that the thermal render pass would be very similar, but instead of a outline data shader to render them, you use a thermal color shader. I'm more interested in the gradient rendering. Like, you would need to render the gradient for every object separately, and I don't know if it's possible to do that with just a mask, or if I must use a second pass shader for that. So you're more interested in the gradient rendering. So I guess you're talking about like how it actually looks in game. Am I getting you correct? Oh yeah, I was about to change this one to public. Get private set. Attribute definition. If it's not null, I don't think we want to log anything here, honestly. No, here we want to do attribute modifier alter attribute instance return true. That's all we do. I mean, doing all the layered stuff and rendering into a separate target is the easy part, but how to color all of that is the question. Yeah, so that's the nice thing. If you do it with the replacement shader approach, you have a lot of more control of how every texture gets colored. So basically you could, by that you could bake into vertex data how hot or cold something is, how thick or thin something is, because basically that's, or how much heat a vertex has. And the easy way to do it then would be for thicker parts of the character body you have a higher heat, and for thinner parts you have a lower heat. Because then when you have your replacement shader, that shader can get that data and render a color based on it. So maybe you pack a data in vertices between 0 and 1, where 0 is cold and 1 is hot. And in that shader, then you have a texture, a gradient texture from blue to red. And based on the value you calculate in the shader, you just output the value from the texture. And by upscaling the image later on, you get a pretty nice gradient. If you would do it with if you would try and do it just from a, so let's say your result from your pre-pass of this thermal vision is just a black and white binary image, so black for things that shouldn't display heat and white for things that should display heat. If you want to get a nice gradient from that, I guess you would have to work with kernels in the last shader bit, and kernels are costly. If you want to get a good result, I would guess you would at least have to go like in full resolution, probably probably, I don't know, 6x6. Just hearing it and throwing ideas around like this, I would definitely go the secondary render pass. Because if you want to get a good gradient that looks somewhat reliable, and you only have a black and white texture because you have done some masking, yeah, you would need a hell of a lot more post-processing than you would with the other approach. At least with my current understanding of the problem. there exists so many fun mini projects one could do. Fucking time. Okay, apply attribute modifier. Attribute modifier, we see if this attribute handler even handles this type of attribute. If it doesn't, we don't do anything. If it does, we alter the attribute instance. And this alter method is very simple. We calculate a multiplier and then we change the value that much given the type of the modifier. So in agent instance, here we have for each attribute modifier, entity attribute handler, apply attribute modifier, done. And we also already spawned the display message. Yeah. No problem at all. Like, this kind of thing interests me a lot. So whichever way you decide to go, if you have an update, feel free to share it. But I mean, yeah. Just to mention as well, like my number one side projects I have in the pipeline now, which I really want to do, or number two actually, is like a VHS type of post-processing effect in Unity. And I'm sure there exists a lot of those. I just think it would be a very fun side project, like diving down into the rabbit hole, like why does VHS have these kind of artifacts and how can I replicate them with noise and stuff like that. It just sounds extremely fun. Okay. Yo, what's up, Chaos Hillzone? So what's this creature collecting game, 2D or 3D? I recommend watching my YouTube. There you have some nice videos which might learn you something. Some of them are pretty in depth, and then I have some shorts which just shows the game pretty much. I'm like handling the creation of all the assets for multiple creatures. First of all, I've settled with, in 1.0 we're probably gonna have very, very few creatures. And then it's going to be a mix of procedurally generated and asset created. We're probably never going to have a creature that is 100% an asset. There's always going to be some part of it that is procedurally generated. Maybe, for instance, how many teeth it has, or eyes, or arms. And then we're going to have creatures that are 100% procedurally generated, like the blobs in our game. I have a few shorts covering that very briefly, not in depth. Skiffy Shore, I remember you wanted to hear my update on ProcGen, but it's not much. I implemented gen rules in the most basic form, and now I need to make more rooms. But currently I am a bit lost in that regard. I think I got a case of a missing art direction, or maybe missing level design ideas. I get that 100%. Have you decided on like an art direction yet? Because I think if you have that, then designing the rooms becomes a little bit more easier. I remember something tells me something about like PlayStation-like graphics, but that might be false, or some other person. Okay, yes, nice. I was recently planning a similar creature game thing, but I'm paused on the asset side of things at the moment. Yeah, the asset... Creature games has to have a lot of creatures or a lot of varieties between the separate... or a lot of variety for the few creatures you have, I think. And I agree that it's extremely daunting to think about. And probably too much for one person to make, especially if it's in 3D. But even if it's drawn with some tricks, it's a lot. Kind of, it's something like PS2 style or similar of that age, but I'm not an artist, so it's a lot harder to get it right. So what is PS2? It's pretty much low poly, but pretty high texture resolution. At least for... I remember it being a lot, the textures being way more of higher quality than the model resolution. Okay, Scaper, I'm gonna check that link out right after this stream, because it's getting time to round it off, unfortunately. But, okay, let's just review real quick what has been done today. I think it's a pretty good pace these first couple of days. So the agent messaging, or like the base of the agent messaging system, is pretty much set now. And I'm liking it a lot so far. And I'm sure we're going to run into trouble where we might need to stretch it or rethink it a tiny bit. But I think this is a good base, and I think we can do a lot with it. What we've done today have also opened up a few questions about the already implemented code. Some stuff we can do a little bit differently, and some things we can do a little bit better, and some things we can just package into the agent messaging system. We also implemented this new, even though we haven't tried it that much yet, we also have this new idle action, which currently doesn't do much. We're probably going to add some very, very simple procedural animation for the blobs here, just so we can get something visually as well. So next week when I get back, we're going to finish the sender, finish the sender side of things when it comes to this action. And then we're going to try the very simple agent system we have. If it works, we're going to make sure it works. And then we're going to move on to adding some other actions and maybe get some messaging working, some more complicated messaging working. Skefi, yeah, like realistic textures, photo mapping, but janky. Yeah, exactly. I think it's extremely charming. Low poly style, high resolution textures is a pretty cool style. I just think it's like, usually when you go low poly, you want to keep memory low. High resolution textures kind of defeats that purpose. But a style is a style, you know. And if you go low poly models as well, like animating them might get a little bit simpler because you have like a ceiling of how good you can animate it. But then you also have the balance of getting a low poly model looking good in movement. But it's definitely a cool style. So yeah, I'm gonna quit here. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I appreciate it. I will be back on Monday if nothing unforeseen happens. Let's get this going. Peace.